This one's for the obsessed. A training machine built for cyclists, by cyclists. The goal: blur the line between virtual and reality. And this is the result. Kicker Bike. A complete training system designed to recreate what you experience on your outdoor bike. You're fit. You're kit. You're set. Your rides. All built on everything we've learned since we launched our first revolutionary creation.
Welcome everybody to the Canadian Esports Championships presented by Wahoo. Here we are with Next Level Streams ZMS, and I'm looking forward to this. The first race is going to be the Ladies Masters racing. We have 14 contestants and 4 categories. The age categories are 35 to 44, 45 to 54, 55 to 64, and 65 plus. What I'll do, folks, is I will work through the different ladies as we get into the race and as we're on the road. Now, because we've only got 14 contestants, I have managed to do a bit of background on the ladies. But first of all, we'll have a look at the map, and you can see it's a very rolling course. So I think this is going to sort them out You can see that it's 2 laps, but fairly lumpy affair. 380 meters, which is not fantastic, but it is going to be enough to, I think, sort out the stronger riders from the less strong riders. Although in this category, I'll be honest, I've been having a look on Facebook and Twitter at the performances given by some of these ladies, and I'm astounded, to be honest. There are some true champions taking part in this event. More about that as we go into the race. Now, 4 of the ladies joined the Zoom room as well, so we're going to see them live in action. And I've actually got information on these 4 ladies. We've got Laura Perry, we've got Yvonne Timewell, we've got Deborah Sluss-Parker and Jana Gillick. Hope I pronounced all those correctly. But I've got information on all these ladies and many more, actually, almost all the 14 taking part. So I will be able to give you some background. There's a good few national champions in and amongst these ladies. Now, we might have a few late joiners. I said 14, but we may well have a few. In fact, it's showing 15 riders on the line. So there's always chance of changing around at the last minute here. The majority of them are running the Canadian flag. There is a couple. You can see the ZMS cameras are running the United States or the British flag, but all the rest of the athletes should be showing in the Canadian flag. Now all the races go off together. It's about to start. So everybody all grouped in together. Here we go. Now when we get into the action, obviously I'll be able to tell you which group the ladies are in, but we'll give it time to settle down. It's going to be a very fast start. You can already see that Laura Perry is pulling them along on the front. I mean, she's got to be one of the main contenders for this title, but we'll see how it goes as we get into the race. Yvonne Timewell, again, another lady in the pain room. Now they are wearing different jerseys to signify the different groups that we're taking part in, so that should make it a little bit easier for me as a commentator, seeing as we've got all the riders riding together. Laura Perry. Now then, let me pull up Laura's stats for you. And Laura is a professional runner that turned cyclist. She established herself in the world of esports over on Swift, and now races with the Fitness Wahoo professional team. So she's very much a top rider in the Canadian esports world. She co-founded AgoWatt Women's Cycling Team in Ottawa, and the idea was to have a competitive team in Ottawa for racing entirely managed by ladies. So kudos for that, Laura. That's a very noble cause you've got there. Kicking out the men and doing it all with the ladies. So expect Laura, I would have thought that Laura is going to be pushing the pace along, as you can see here. There she is in the pain cave. Very experienced athlete and very capable. But she's up against some stiff competition as we're going, as we look further down the field. We seem to have got a group here of, how many we got? We got 6 riders have broken away off the front and established a fair old gap here, 181 metres to Wozni. So these 6 riders, here's Deborah Parker. Okay, let's see if we can find the information on Deborah. Deborah was the 2019 Women's Master in the 40 to 49 age category. She rides for Watt Riot Cycling, and so she's certainly got pedigree. And again, you would expect somebody like Deborah to be up amongst the front riders here in this championship. As I say, the 2019 Ladies Masters. And again, Deborah Sluice Parker, she's in the pain room as well, so we may well get a look. There she is. So there's Deborah. Nice cadence she's got there, looking very smooth, not rocking and rolling too much on the bike just yet. So she looks like she's well in control. Nice power output, nice and steady. I expected a few more of the group to actually come towards the front. I mean, it's by no means over yet, it's too soon, but we do now have 7, as it looks like they're managing to stay together. A couple are off the back, but they'll soon close this up. As we look at our next rider, and again another rider in the pain cave, but Jana Gillick, she's got quite a Palmares. She basically comes from a road racing cyclocross background, and she was active between 2014 and 2015 as a national standard road racer, and the best results were I think, yes, an 8th place in the national championships. So Jana has also got form, and again a rider that I'd expect to do well in this race. She needs to get on the wheels though. You cannot afford, and there we look at Jana, she's a bit low in the pain cave room, it looks to be very busy in there, but she really needs to pull up to the wheels. You cannot afford to allow a couple of bike lengths, because then you have to put in too many high watts to get back on the wheels. And it does look like she's struggling slightly here. She's 10 meters off the back, and if she doesn't close this gap quickly, she's going to be gone. You can see the gap is slowly growing, so Jana really should be putting in a big effort here to get back, unless she knows what she's doing, unless she's quite content just to sit off the back and reel them back in, which is what it looks like. So yeah, you would expect somebody with Jana's experience to know how to ride these events. I'm certainly not going to try and tell her how to ride them. Now this is it Anna Scott? That's Amanda Scott we're looking at here on the road. She's 7th rider on the road. She's been dropped from the group, 96 meters behind. So sadly, Amanda, I think you're probably going to be saying goodbye to that group up the front. When riding on your own, you're not going to close a gap of 100 meters if the front riders are doing as they are doing now, or working well together. So and same with Wozni here, Gail Wozni, and let's have a look. Gail is the club president. I don't what club do we have for Gail? Let me just have a look. Yes, Juventus Cycling Club. So Gail is the club president. I believe her partner was also high up in the hierarchy of the Juventus Cycling Club, and she won a gold medal in the 2016 Canadian National Track Cycling Championships. So Gail has also got very good form. Probably a little bit surprised to be left behind by the group here. And sadly, as I say, I don't think that she's going to get back on. As we look at 9th rider, Jessica Banfield. Let's see, have we got any information on Jessica? I think, yeah, Jessica was first person on my list, and I failed to find any relevant info on Facebook, so perhaps she's not a Facebook aficionado. Couldn't really find much information, and I'm sorry for that, Jessica. But currently in 9th spot, and 40 odd meters behind, in front of Anna Tikalis. Now I do have information on Anna. She's from St Catherine's Cycling Club. She's very much an active member of that cycling club. She helps to run group rides over on Swift. She runs a lot of events, and she qualified for the Gran Fondo World Cup. So a regular and popular rider in the esports world, as well as in the real life world. Puts a lot back into the sport through her cycling club St Catherine's, which is always good to read about. But here we are back up the front now, and yeah, we've got the ones that I fully expected to be pushing towards the front, in Gillick, Perry and Parker, and Yvonne Timewell here. Now Yvonne Timewell, she's definitely got form. She's a Specialized Canada ambassador. There she is in the pain cave. Look at that lovely fast cadence she's got here. You can see, I mean, it's showing at 90 on the graphic, but it does look faster than 90 to me as she gives me a look into the camera. And she's been all over the place in terms of results and races. She took part in Ultraman Canada in 2014 and set a new record for that event. She finished the 144.8 kilometer distance in 4 hours and 44 minutes and 5 seconds, and that beat the previous record by a good margin. So in fact by more than 12 minutes. So she's definitely one of the stronger riders in this group here, and you know, that was 2014, but she's still going strong in her age category, and I'd expect her to be there definitely at the finish of this race. Now there aren't really the kind of hills on this race to split this group up. They're all very strong riders in their own right, so I would fully expect this small group probably to stay together, certainly on this first lap anyway, and it could come down to a bunch sprint this. I'm not going to call it just yet, we'll wait and see what happens, but a nice tidy group like this working well together, obviously taking advantage of the draft in each of them doing a fair share of the work, that's going to lead to this group staying together, I believe. You may well find one or two of the riders deciding to try and stretch their legs and seeing what the other riders have got, the likes of Parker on this, but I don't know. I tend to think that nobody's going to show themselves too early, but we'll see what happens. You can see Scott here in the multi-view camera view, off the back in 7th place, and we've got Wozni in 8th place here. As I say, I really feel for them because they're not going to get back to the front group. It's just too much to ask. As we see Laura Perry now, remember I said that we could see riders pushing the pace off the front just to see what the other riders have got in their legs and just to test them. And Laura, I know, I've watched her over on Swift. Laura is the kind of rider that will do that. She will certainly try to find out, you know, who's her contenders in this race. I mean, she probably knows already. She'll have raced against many of these riders before. As we look at Diane Bowman's, let's see if we've got any information. Yes, we've got some information on Diane as well. So Diane's from Saskatoon, and she works for Team HPL Cycling. She's been an elite athlete for most of her life, competing at the very highest level. She really works hard in the team. This is her bio that I'm reading here. She really works hard for her team, representing Canada in the Bermuda World Triathlon Championships. And she's another person that regularly leads rides over on the Swift platform. Now I keep mentioning Swift because a lot of these riders, they're trying RGT. This is the first Canadian Esports Championships on RGT. A lot of these riders are trying RGT probably for the first time, or certainly the first time in a championship like this. But many of them have cut their teeth, so to speak, over on Swift, and I know some of them from watching the races over on Swift in the early days. So, well, not even the early days, recently. I've been with RGT now just over a year, so I spent the previous 6 years over on Swift. So I've actually seen many of these ladies racing. Now, Josie Rosignol, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Josie. She's got a heck of a pal mares. Let's just pull this. She's a Masters Canadian Road Champion. So Josie has definitely got form as well, and certainly well deserves her place in these front riders. She raced in the second UCI Esports World Championships, which was over on Swift, and I don't know exactly where she finished in that event, but the fact that she was even taking part for Team Canada tells you the class of Josie. Now, as I say, I do apologise if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but I hope I'm getting it right. As we have another look at the Pain Cave look, and most of them on this short, sharp climb out of the saddle. These are the ladies that are up the front that you're seeing now. They're on the 6.5% slope, which is why you're seeing them out of the saddle in the Pain Caves. I mean, they all look to be working really well here. Nice fast cadence from Yvonne Timewell as she gets out of the saddle, sits back down, and slightly, more or less the same cadence, slightly faster if anything, while the others are now sat, well, in fact all four of them are sat down now. But you can see the differences in techniques here, and you can certainly see the pain on some of the faces. It's a shame that Jana, you need to sort your camera out, Jana, and show us more of your pain face. We can only see the top of your head at the moment, but you certainly look to be working well. Your eyes are definitely showing the focus that you have, which is really nice to see, as Deborah breathing heavy. Deborah Sluice Parker breathing heavy, trying to get the air in, taking a quick look at the camera. But she looks focused, she looks well, as does Laura Perry. Laura looks really comfortable actually. But she's an elite athlete, and you would expect nothing less. I'm enjoying this, folks. This is turning into a good race with most of the riders who I managed to do my background checks on. Most of the riders that I did my background checks are all up here at the front end of the race. Let's just give a bit of a shout out as well to a couple of the riders' teams, and Triavalon, of which Jessica Banfield and Andrea Duguide are riding for in this championship. That's a social network of triathletes in and around the St. John's area of Canada. I visited St. John's while on my Around the World Cycle tour, but that's beside the point. But St. John's, and they wanted to have a place where they could share information and make connections for the various tri-training programs. So they set up their own network, Triavalon, and they put together a cracking team. So we'll try and call out some more of the teams as we look at some of the other riders. Now, T. Brimmer. Who's T. Brimmer? Let's have a look. That's one of the late joiners. So T. Brimmer I don't have on the rider list. So T. Brimmer is obviously, I'm sorry I can't give her first name. T. Brimmer is obviously one of the late join, well, the one late joiner that I don't have in my rider list. And as I mentioned earlier, these 6 riders, I feel that they will more or less stay together. Yes, they're going to be to-ing and fro-ing, probably just testing each other, but they're going to stay together. We're 10 kilometers in with 16 remaining, so they're going to stay together at least for the first lap, and I would have thought going into the second as well. Now you may see them try and break away, a couple of riders try and break away on the second lap climbs, but I wouldn't have thought they're going to do that on this first time around. I believe it is 2 laps, isn't it? Yes, it is. So expect these 6 riders to stay together. Everybody seems to be sharing a fair workload. You can clearly see from the graphics how the drafting works on RGT, because the riders in the draft are doing much less than the riders that are pushing off the front and putting in their noses to the wind. So the riders on the front are going to be putting in more watts than the riders behind them, with the exception of riders that have to close up gaps. If you drop a bike length and you have to close the gap, then obviously your wattage is going to go up. And some riders are happy to do that. Other riders will be more canny and try and save as much watts as they can by staying perfectly in the draft. I have to say RGT is pretty good in the drafting department in terms of the reality of it. It's very realistic, but it does take some getting used to. It's not like Swift, which has a sticky draft. The draft on RGT is more like real life and does take a lot of getting used to on the platform if you've ridden over on Swift. It's much better, but it takes a lot of getting used to, as we're watching Amanda Scott and Gail Wasney here in 7th and 8th. So these two have joined up together. Yes, they're a kilometre behind now, so these two could well be fighting for 7th and 8th place together. I don't see them being caught by the riders behind. They're not going to catch the riders in front, so it's basically going to be a race between these two. And we've already given you the bios on these two ladies. Let's see if they manage to stay together a bit later in the race, as we have another look at the ladies on the front. Now they're going down this steep downhill, this blue section, steep downhill. Expect the slightly heavier of the ladies to have the advantage here. But on a course like this, the advantages are sort of like mitigated by the uphills. The advantages of being better on the downhills are mitigated by the uphills, and the uphills are mitigated by the downhills. You've got equal measures of both if you look at the course profile, which is on the bottom of the screen. The red is the climbs and the blue is the downhills, and you can see that there's almost equal amounts of both. So in reality, there's not much to separate the riders here in terms of the terrain. I do think that you will see riders push on the second lap on the climbs, but because you've got a couple of really good downhills and so much flat in between, you're not going to see riders breaking away from each other at the front of the race. You may well see further down the field, as we saw Amanda pull away from Gail there, but Gail's pulled her back now. It would make sense for those two to ride together, I'll be honest, it really would. It doesn't make much sense to ride solo if you've got another rider around you and you can match the pace. Now obviously if one of the riders is going much faster than the other or putting in more watts, then it doesn't make sense to wait, but otherwise it makes sense to change the leader and do a little bit of recovery drafting, and both do equal amount of work. It just makes more sense than riding on your own. But it's not always possible. You never know really whether the two riders are capable of putting in the same level of performance. But it does look like these two are sharing the workload. Gail looks particularly strong, so we'll see how they do, but I don't expect them to close that gap, even working well together. Don't expect them to close that gap on the front riders. Now, I can only call it as I see it, folks, but I've a lot of experience of covering these kinds of races, and I generally get the tactics pretty close. Not always spot on, but pretty close. Certainly, I think we're going to see the front group staying together for a little while longer yet, and we could well see a large, well, I'm saying a large, we could well see that group of 6 all go into the finish together. I think Gail, who I told you about earlier, who got the gold medal in the 2016 Canadian National Track Cycling Championships, I think Gail will be a little bit surprised to have been shelled out the back of that group, because she's capable of high wattage, as you can see, and you know, it could have been that she was just caught off guard, or it could be that she just on the day hasn't got the strength to stay with the other riders. But RGT is unforgiving in terms of once you get a couple of bike lengths on a rider, if you can maintain your pace, it's incredibly difficult to close up a gap on a small group. It's a bit easier. I do see Gail pulling back Amanda here, Amanda Scott, who's in front of her, by a couple of bike lengths. That's a different matter. This is only a head-to-head between 2 riders, and so you would expect them to and fro. But Amanda Scott pulling back the gap to the riders in front, or even Gail pulling back the gap to the riders in front, you've got 6 riders all working well together. I've just seen the numbers go in red. 5 watt-kilos we're seeing from Laura Perry, 4.8 from Yvonne Timewell, and again 4.9 from Parker. So you can see that this group are really putting in high wattages to keep the pace high, to make sure that the riders behind, the 2 riders behind, they're not even giving them a look-see. Having said that, Amanda and Gail are absolutely storming in terms of trying to peg the distance, and they've actually got it down to under 1 kilometre behind. So they have pulled a little bit back. I just can't see them closing that kind of a gap, but never say never. I've ridden enough races on RGT to know that pulling back a gap of that size on a fast moving small group like this is nigh on impossible, unless you've got more riders to help you recover with through and off. And drafting makes such a huge difference on this platform. You can save so many watts by sitting in and then doing your turn on the front. As you saw Yvonne before, I mean, she's 3.4 now on the front, and then look when she drops behind, look, you'll see her wattage will drop down. Eventually it'll drop down to 1.8, 1.9. So you know, but she's back on the front again. Yeah, she's pushing off the front. But basically the riders are taking turns to do a push into the wind off the front, and then they'll drop back a little bit, recover. It's really nice to see this group working well together, and all doing a fair share of the work. There's no one rider here standing out. They all look to be doing, you know, fair shares of the workload. Nobody's really and you often get that in these kind of races. You often get riders that want to try and do the majority of sitting in, but it does look like every member of this group, as we watch Gillick pulling on the front there. That's Jana Gillick, she's pulling off the front, and then you've got Jose Rosigno, she was there as well. So yeah, it's interesting to see how they how they're all swapping over here. Diane Bowman's doing a turn on the front. And Yvonne coming to the... You see, they're all taking equal turns. There's no one rider really sitting in. The signal needs to close up that small gap at the back. You can see she's going red doing so. She went up to 7 watt-kilos there. And a rider of her experience will know you cannot allow a couple of bike lengths, because if it grows out to 20 meters, you're gone. You're not going to, you know, without a huge effort, you're not going to get back on. And what we call these small efforts, when you lose a couple of bike lengths and you have to close the gap, we call it burning matches, because basically you have to put in, as you saw Rossignol do there, you have to put in higher wattage. She went into the red, and you can only do that so many times. You've only got so many matches in your box. You can only do it so many times, and you pay for it towards the end of an event. If you burnt too many matches closing up these small gaps, you're going to definitely pay for it. And we've seen it time and time again, particularly in the tours, the races that I've covered on RGT. You can check out my channel, but basically the races I've covered, I've covered this in depth, how burning matches by having to close up gaps at the back of the pack costs you at the end. Now we're seeing high wattages being put in by all these 6 riders, because they're basically looking to see, can we break this apart? So the riders are trying to break it apart. Certainly Laura Perry with Diane Parker there was trying to split away from the 3 riders behind. They have got a bit of a gap, but I do tend to think that this will close up again. I don't think these 3 riders are going to maintain this. I do think Yvonne Timewell and Rossignol can close this up. Maybe you've got Jana Gillick there as well. So I think they'll close it up. They should do anyway. But they do look like they're dropping Rossignol off the back again. So she's going to have to burn another match. She's already doing 4.5 watt-kilos to try and just hang on. Now if she goes, and she's in the red now once again. So this is another match she's burning, and I can state categorically she's going to pay for it. If she does manage to get back on, Jose is going to pay for this, because this is really, really painful, folks. Trust me. I don't know. No, we haven't got Jose in the pain cave, so we can't actually see her. But I'm sure she's absolutely gasping at this point, because you can see she's regularly going red, trying to get back on, and she may well get back on, but at what cost? She's going to pay for this later in the race. Now some riders have got the ability to be able to do this and actually sit in a little bit, recover, and then they can go again. And I'm not saying that Jose can't do that. She may well have the capabilities of being able to do that. So don't rule her out. I'm just saying I tend to think that she's going to pay for this towards the end of the race. But we'll see. Because she every time there's an upping of the pace, she's off the back. And that's a dangerous situation. Now what she really needs to do is, she doesn't want to put a nose, no, you don't want to put your nose up at the front. You've already done more than enough work to get back to this group, Jose. Just sit in and recover. That would be my tactic. But brilliant racing by these girls. I mean, they're really testing each other out. You could see when they were all going red. Yes, it's settled down now. We're back to sort of like 3 watt-kilos, 1.7 for those sitting in. So low watt-kilos. They're just now recovering a bit. They're getting together again. All 6 of them still. So brilliant racing, absolutely fabulous. And I can say without a doubt that Rossignol will be loving this. She'll be loving the fact that the riders have slowed, that she's getting chance to recover. As we see Jana Gillick once again push off the front. I mean, the stronger riders will do this. They'll take a bit of recovery and then they'll go again, just to see, okay, who's going with me? Who's going with me? As we look at Bonfield here now, did we? Oh, yeah. This is Jessica, who, as I say, I didn't manage to find any information on Jessica, for which I extremely apologise, folks. I did do my homework, but I couldn't find any relevant information on Jessica. I did manage to find information on Anna Tickoli's though. We've already covered Anna. She rides for St. Catherine's Cycling Club, and she's one of their stalwart members, certainly, qualifying for the Gran Fondo World Cup and leading rides over on Swift. So she's a very active club member. Now these two ladies, they've dropped back even further, as you can see. I did say, I mean, they did well. They actually got back to within under a kilometre of the group in front, Amanda and Gail here. But to be fair to them, that probably hurt, and they realised they couldn't maintain it, because when the front group started pushing out the red numbers, these two girls would just go out the back even more, and that's proved to be the case here. As you can see, here's Gail Wozni. I do wish they'd been able to hang on, because I would have liked to have seen Gail, being a track cyclist, I'd like to have seen her towards the end of this event, you know, seeing what kind of a punch she has at the end. Track riders generally do tend to have a bit of a sprint on them, so it could have been interesting, but we'll never know now. Here are the four in the pain cave, and you can tell from this graphic in the pain cave it's settled down now. Look, certainly Deborah looks nice and relaxed now. Laura looks like she's on a club ride, as does Yvonne Timewell. Yana looks the most focused of the four, but she sorted out a camera so we could actually see her now, mouth open, breathing heavily. So she's definitely working hard, but she's looking good. She's looking very focused. Look at those eyes. Would you want to race against her? Yeah. So, but you can tell they're in this sort of like recovery phase here. They're all looking very comfortable. Well, certainly. At least three of them are, anyway. I think all four. I think they're just now sussing each other out. Like I say, they will definitely have raced against each other before, I'm pretty sure. So they will have a little bit of knowledge about their contestants. And they may have well have done what I've done, which is to, you know, to have a look at their fellow competitors' bios and just see what they're up against. I mean, when I was asked to cover this event as a commentator, I did say that I hadn't got a clue about any of the Canadian, other than what I've seen over on Swift. I hadn't got a clue about any of the Canadian esports champions. So I had to go away and have a bit of a look. And I always do that. If I feel out of my depth, I always go away, do a little bit of work, and I think it's paying off here for the ladies. Now, I'm unable to do that with the men because we've got 58 men taking part in the Masters Championship, and that's a little bit too many to go Googling them all. So I'll probably do it live with the men. We'll see who gets off the front, and then we'll Google them live as we cover the race. But we're concentrating on the ladies. These 6 ladies are still staying together, still looking very strong and focused. And who's your money on here, folks? I wouldn't like to pick a winner yet out of these ladies. We've only got 6 kilometers to go, so there's going to be a reckoning pretty soon. I don't know. I'm a bit loath to pick a winner. Let's have a look at the age categories. So who've we got? Let's just tick them off and see who we've got here and the different age categories. Now obviously Parker is in the 45 to 54 age category, so we'll mark Parker off, as is Jose Rosignol, so she's in the same 45 to 54, as is Jana from Glotman Simpson Cycling. So there's 3 riders in this out of these 6. Well, you can see that actually from the jerseys. So you can see that 3 of the riders are from the same age group. You've only got who is it in the Laura Perry. So Laura Perry is the only rider in the 35 to 44 Masters women in that front group. As we see Yvonne pushing off the front now, she's going for a long one. She's trying to see who's going to go with her, trying to break this group up. 6.3 what kilo she was putting out there. So Yvonne Timewell pushing off the front. Parker goes with her, but they're not going anywhere. This is the steep downhill section. You can see they're on the blue section. It ends very quickly all together. No, the downhill isn't really the place you should be pushing. Now then, we are coming into the hill, and this is where, if you're going to push 5 kilometers to go, this is where to do it. So we've got Perry. She's in this front group from Wahula Col. So she's the youngest of these 6 riders. Let's find the other 2. Who else have we got? Just trying to now Yvonne Timewell. Yvonne's in the 55 to 64, but has she got a pedigree? She's a class act. In fact, I'll just pull up. She's the Specialized Canada ambassador, and Yvonne is the lady that set the new record in the Ultraman Canada event. I mean, yes, it was back in 2014, but she was showing then what a class athlete she was. So I'm fully expecting Yvonne to be in the top 3 here. I'm going to stick my neck out and say Yvonne's going to be in the top 3 here. Let's 4.5 kilometers to go. I'm going to call a winner. I'm going to go for Laura Perry. I think Laura Perry will get this. Now then, who else have we got? We've got. Who have I missed? Have I missed Bowman's? Have I missed? Yes, in the 55 to 64, along with Yvonne, we have Diane Bowman's. So that's all 6. I've got all 6 now. So we have 1 rider in the 35 to 44. That's Laura Perry, the youngest rider in this group. Then we have 3 riders in the 45 to 54 Masters category. I'll just call them for you. Jana Gillick, Jose Rosignol and Deborah Parker. And then we have 2 riders in the 55-64, Diane Bowman's and Yvonne Timewell. So I'm going for Laura Perry to take the win. Rosignol, after struggling earlier on, is now looking like she's recovering and coming back. Is she going to pay towards the end? I don't know. It's looking like she's strong. Yeah, I'm going for Laura Perry. I've already gone for Yvonne. I think Yvonne will finish in the top 3. So who's my other third rider? that I'm going to go for. Let's have a look. Oh, this is a tough one, folks. I'm going to go for Deborah Parker. So Laura Perry, Yvonne, Timewell and Deborah Parker are my top 3. Now this is only for a bit of fun, folks. I'm not dissing any of the riders at all. I think this has been an amazing performance by all of these riders, but it's nice to see them in the pain cave as we're coming in towards the finish. 3.3 kilometers to go. So they've got a really good gap over that small group behind. They don't have to worry about being caught by anybody. Laura Perry is already pushing off the front. Now who's that going? That's Yvonne. That's my other pick, pulling up towards her. But this is going to go down to the wire. This may well end up being a sprint. And who's your money on for the sprint? I mean, I'm going for Laura Perry because I think she might go for a long one, but wow, this could come down to a full-on power sprint, and you've got to be looking at Deborah Parker. I mean, she looks like she's built for sprinting. So let's see what happens here. But all these riders deserve, a big shout out, because I've already covered the bios from these girls, all 6 of these girls, and every one of them has got a bio, that they should rightfully be proud of. Okay, Laura Perry is doing what I expected, pushing off the front, trying to get a gap. She's trying to go for a long one. She's one of the lighter riders, as you can see from the paint cams. So yeah, she's got a heck of a pedigree, but I do feel to stand a chance here, she's going to have to jump off the front. 2.1 kilometers to go. I can't see her winning the sprint. Deborah Parker is my pick if it comes down to a bunch sprint. Laura's getting on a wheel now. I mean, Deborah's looking really strong here. Yvonne Timewell looks so cool. Yana less so. Yana's out of the saddle, really working hard here. This is exciting, folks. 1.9 kilometers to go. Deborah needs to get off the front though. I really think she doesn't want to be pulling this group along. I think she is probably the best sprinter in this group, but if that's the case, she definitely needs to get off the front and get into a drafting position to take the sprint. These are just the tactics that I'm calling, from my experience watching these kind of races. I'm not saying I'm going to be correct here, but let's see what happens. It's nice to see La Rossignol is actually managing to stay with this group. She didn't get dropped out the back, so maybe I did a disservice when I said that she was burning matches. Maybe she's got far more than I expected to burn. Let's see what happens as we're coming into the finish. 1.3 kilometers to go, so we're getting very, very close to the Flamme Rouge. I don't know if there's a red banner over the road. I can't see one, so I'm supposing that there probably isn't. 1.1 kilometer to go. Okay, and that looks like a rider that they've lapped. Yeah, that's a lapped rider that they're passing now. Laura Perry trying to get on the front. She's the lightest rider. Well, I'm not saying she's the lightest, but she's a lighter rider, so she's going to go well on this lump. 6.9%. She's going to go well here, but can she break away? Wow, this is superb. It really is. Deborah Parker looking really, really strong. I mean, are any of my picks going to finish in the top 3? There's Yvonne. Yvonne's been saving a powder. Let's hope Yvonne's got a kick on her and can get in the top 3 as I mentioned. There's Jana. Now Jana is possibly going to push it. 600 meters to go. Diane on the front. But this is a bunch sprint, folks. This is not a long one. This is a bunch sprint. They're sitting in, they're weighing each other up. Is Yvonne going to try and go from the back? Is she going to kick and go from the back? Can she sit in? Can she get in the draft? It does look like it. Laura's there on the front as well. And it's a slightly uphill finish with a bit of a flat with about 200 meters to go. So, oh, this must be painful. Here we go. Now, don't forget these different age categories here. So it's a case of who's going to take the different age categories. But I'm just gonna call the overall, and then we'll try and sort out the different age categories later. But it looks like Jana Gillick is she's jumped off the front too early. Laura Perry, my pick, and Yvonne Timewell. So these are two of my picks. Can they stay in front though? Can they stay in front? Who's gonna get it? Who's gonna get it? Jana Gillick. Oh, impossible to tell. Too close for me to call, folks. I can't call that. It looked like Jana Gillick may have taken first place, with Deborah Parker second, and Diane Bowman's third, I think. In which case, my three were out. Well, actually, no, my three weren't. I picked Deborah Parker. But wow. What a race. Okay, we'll wait for the official confirmation. I mean, all the results will be on the website. Because they're all racing together, I'm a bit loath to give you winners and losers here, because it's a joined-in competition. But we will try and have a look, and let's have a look. So we've got, if I can mark them off while we're watching these other riders coming in. We're watching, is this Amanda Scott coming in 7th place? So let's have a look. We got Laura Perry came in 4th. We got, was it Jana Gillick took the first place? Yes, it was. So we think these are only provisional that I'm giving that here, folks. That's all I can do. 6th was a signal. Where did Park? Deborah second. And then what I can do with this, I can state that Jana, who not only finished first in out of all the Masters riders, but Jana also finished first in her category. So she gets the Diane Bowman's won her category, so she finished 3rd overall and took her age category. Yvonne, she finished 5th. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Yeah. So Laura Perry, obviously she was the only one of the 3 that finished in the top part of the field from her age category, and she finished 4th overall. And in the end, they had a really good gap over Amanda Scott here. So Amanda's going to come in 7th place. There's no one. There we go. Let me just check this. So I marked down Jana first, Deborah second, Diane third, yeah, Laura 4th, yeah, Yvonne 5th, and Jose in 6th. So yes. Very exciting race. You can actually see from the times how close it was and why I said I couldn't call it, because the first 4 riders finished within fractions of a second of each other. Here we go, look, 49.10, 49.10, 49.10, 49.10 for the top 4 places, and then 49.11 for the 5th place. So I did say during my commentary that Rossigno would pay for the matches she burnt, and there's the truth in it, 7 seconds off the group at the end, and that's purely because she had to burn matches and work to close up those small gaps throughout the the middle to second half of the race. So this is what I mean about I try to give you an overall view of the tactics, and when a rider drops half a wheel, a couple of bike lengths behind and has to close up a gap, they generally do pay for it towards the end of the racing. We're still waiting for Amanda Scott here to come in, and then Gail is not that far behind, but then we've got quite a few larger gaps to the ladies behind. We're going to have a little bit of a wait for the other riders to come in. But a very close race for the top 5 certainly, and even Rossigno finishing within sort of like 8 seconds of the winner. So the top 6 placings, a very good race. I wonder whether the men's race will be as close. I think this course does lead itself. If the men, I'm not sure yet, I don't know. We've got the men's race coming up a bit later, but I'm not sure if it's the same course. I know it's further distance, but I'm not sure if it's the same course. If it is, then I fully expect a similar kind of race from the men, whereby we're going to have a small group goes off the front, probably bigger than this because we've got 58 riders in the male. So, oh, it's the same course, same distance. Well, that changes for the dynamic then. With the men, expect it to split up a little bit more. I do think we're going to come down to a bunch sprint with the men, but also I do think that the 58 riders, we're not going to see a very large group coming to the finish. The 58 riders are going to get split all over the course. I can state that quite categorically on this kind of a course. I've seen it too many times. You're not going to get 58 riders coming in together, or even half that field. So here we're looking at Amanda coming into the finish. There she goes under the banner. Well done, Amanda. In a time of 55 minutes, so yeah, a good few minutes behind the ladies in front of her. Here we see Gail, some 430 meters behind Amanda. I am a little bit surprised that the men are riding the same course and the same distance, and that's not to be I'm not being sexist at all, but it does rather surprise me that they're riding the same distance, because 27 kilometers, I don't know, it's going to be fast and furious, that is for sure. I don't think we're going to see the same kind of recovery going on that we saw with the ladies. The ladies were obviously, pushing the pace up off the front and then taking recovery. I think what we're going to see in the men's race is we're going to see them going balls out from start to finish. It'll be interesting, definitely. Now, I'm hoping we're going to have some men in the Zoom room as well, but more about that later. What we're going to do, folks, is we're going to watch the riders coming in here, and then we'll be taking a break. We'll go to the ads and we'll take a break, go and have a cup of tea while we wait for the men's race to get lined up on the start line. I'm not quite sure if my producer could tell me what time the men's the men's race is starting again. I've forgotten. But yes, past. Okay, so we've basically got about, we're going to have about anything between, depending on how long it takes these riders to come into the finish. Here we see Anna Tickles. Yeah, depending on how long it takes these riders coming to the finish, and it looks like not very long at all. We're down to the last 2 riders. It does look like 4 riders have they quit the championship, or have they dropped out? Because I'm only seeing 10 riders now. You can see the graphic on screen. It looks like Banfield is the last rider, and then we have the ZMS cameras. So cameras are out, I'm being told. Okay. Yeah, so it looks like we're free down here. We've got some cameras out, and I'm not quite sure who we've got left to finish. Yeah, we're going to wrap up the broadcast after Banfield comes in. So we're watching the 9th rider here. When the 10th rider comes in, and he's not that far behind this rider here, only 300 meters. So we're only looking at a couple of minutes now. Then we're going to head off for a cup of tea, and we'll be back with you in plenty of time to chat about the men's race. Now, obviously, I won't be able to give you as much background on the riders as I did with the ladies. 58 riders is far too many for me at such short notice to do background checks on. But I have been keeping an eye on the Discord channel, the Canadian Cycling Discord channel, and I have been also keeping an eye on the ebiopassport.com website, and all the riders in the championship have to have taken part in the weigh-in and the eBioPassport data. So all the results are going to be fully legit, as you would expect from such a prestigious event. And yeah, it's a chance to sort of like have a bit of a peek at some of the riders. So I will have a little bit of snippets of information. And what I'll also try and do, I'll also try and go live and see if I can, you know, when we see who's forming the front group, the likely winners, I'll actually then go on Google and see if I can do a bit of live web searching on the riders' biographies, as I did with the ladies. So I'm trying to give you value for money, folks, with these broadcasts. I tried to call out the 1, 2, 3. I only managed to get, I chose 3 riders and I only got 1 of them in the top 3 out of the 6. So that was pretty poor performance from my point of view. But what a stunning race. It was really a very exciting race. As I say, with the top 5 riders finishing within 1 second of each other, and even fractions of a second. So yeah, very exciting finish to come down to a bunch sprint like this. And it was too close for me to call on the line. I couldn't physically see who crossed the line first. It turned out to be Jana Gillick, but I couldn't spot that from the feed. It was just too close to call. So a really exciting race, and let's hope the men's lives up to the same standard, and I think it will. So here we see Tickles coming to the finish. There we go. Well done, Anna. And then we've just got Jessica for Banfield. Have we got any information on Jessica? Let's have a look. Oh no, Jessica, as I say, Jessica was, and that is so strange. Jessica was the one rider that I couldn't seem to find. She obviously rides for Tri-Avalon, which is a very popular club, but I couldn't find any other information. I mean, Jeff Pawley, he's the president of the Tri-Avalon Club, and they're very, very active in the St. John's area. But I couldn't find any individual information on Jessica. So nice to see you in the championship. And we're going to wrap up the broadcast, folks. What we got, 19:13. So I've got about 5 minutes before I'm back. So I'll just make myself a cup of tea, and then I'll come back and join you. There we go, over the line. So that's a wrap for the ladies, folks. As you can see the results on screen. I'm going to mute the mic and pop off. I think you're going to have some...
Gentlemen, perhaps we wouldn't be where we are today if we hadn't said to ourselves, just go, 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 go for it. Gentlemen, double gentlemen, double
This one's for the obsessed. A training machine built for cyclists, by cyclists. The goal: blur the line between virtual and reality. And this is the result. Kick a Bike. A complete training system designed to recreate what you experience on your outdoor bike. You're fit. You're kit. You're set. Your rides. All built on everything we've learned since we launched our first revolutionary creation.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Canadian Esports Championships. This time we have the men. Race starting in about 3 minutes time, presented by Wahoo. Now we've already run the ladies, finished about 15 minutes ago. So this is going to be a slightly larger race, same distance, same loop, but we have 58 men racing in this category. Obviously we have the different age groups, but they're all racing together. Now we're not going to be able to sort out the different age categories for you. You will notice different jerseys, but you're going to have to go to the results website to actually see the different age categories. But we will cover the action as best we can, and it should be quite exciting. You can see from the profile, it's like a loop, and it's fairly flat. 2 laps, as you can see. Enough of a couple of spikes to sort of like break up the groups. Only 314 meters of ascent. Sorry, 380 meters of ascent. So in total, but there's enough in the graphic to sort of like have a bit of a sort out for the stronger riders. So I do expect it, as the ladies did, to come down to a bunch sprint at the end. I think we'll see the groups forming, and I do think we'll see one group going to the finish. And look at this, folks. This is the Zoom room. This is all the paint tapes showing on screen. Now I'll try and have a look at some of these riders. We'll try and do a bit of bio on some of them. I may know a few of them from Swift, my time over there. But basically I'm going blind here. Didn't have enough time really to do proper bios as I did with the ladies, too many riders. So what we'll do is we'll wait for the groups to form, and then I'll try and have a bit of a look at some of the riders, although the action may be such that we can't do that. I like to concentrate on what's happening on the road, and going away and trying to look at Google is not really going to help me with my commentary, but we'll see what we can manage. It promises to be an exciting race. I think it's going to be fast and furious. I think it's going to be faster than the ladies, purely and simply because these boys are going to want to take as little recovery as possible. And here we go, they're off. And as I said, look, absolutely blitzing it from the start. Everybody in the red. It's going to be fast, it's going to be furious. We may well see an early break go, but I think this is how the race is going to go, folks. I think you're going to see a group forming up at the front. They'll break away. We may get 15, 20 riders. I mean, it's a huge group at the moment, and this is not going to stick. We have this small climb at the start, 7.9% it went up to, but then it flattens off, and that's going to give this group a chance to regroup. But I do think there's enough time on the slopes later on in the course. Like I said, I watched it with the ladies. I do think there's enough climbing to sort of like force a bit of a split in the packs. Plus the paces, obviously, we're going to see a war of attrition here, and the pace is definitely going to split them up. As we look at Alex Ryback here. Now, as I say, with the ladies, I was able to do bios on the ladies. I can't do that with the folks, with the men folks, and I hope you'll accept that. Just too many riders for me to go away and have a look at. Now, you can see that they're riding different jerseys, so there's the different age categories. And what I might be able to do is tell you the different you know, if I can get a rider name and then look at where he is in the age categories, that will tell you, for example, the dark jerseys, the RGT dark jerseys that you can see Van der Veen was in. That's the 45 to 54 Masters category. Sorry, I said Van der Veen, Van de Green. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. So he's in the, along with all the others in the RGT sort of blackish grey jerseys. That's the 45 to 54 age category. Let's see if we can spot another rider. Let's have a look at E. Lee. So if we can find E. Lee on the list. Yeah, Eric Lee, Wahula Cole. Now, Eric Lee is in the 35 to 44. So any other riders wearing this red jersey that you can see Eric Lee wearing here, you know that they're also in the 35 to 44 category. Okay. And we may get a few of the other categories as we go ahead. We've got D. Herbert here, I suspect. Let's see if we can find him. Yeah, Herbert. So these jerseys, these blue, bluish purple and red jerseys, this is the 55 to 64 that you can see Herbert and Cooper Williams here. They're in the 55 to 64 age category. So we've identified 3 of the categories at the moment. Daniel Herbert. Okay, and Matthew Cooper Williams. Yeah, I'm reading from the start list, which I printed out, folks, as well as seeing it on screen. So whichever happens first. We see Samson, obviously a mechanical there, pulled over to the side of the road. And mechanicals are something which you never really know whether it's a dropout they've experienced or whether it is a true mechanical. You just don't know. I thought I saw the name Van der Veen. I did. So Van der Veen, yes. I got confused between two very similar names. Van der Veen, again, is in the 35 to 44. And although I say so myself, I do know Van der Veen from the Swift platform. And I do know that he's one of the contenders today. He's a very strong rider, got a very good Palmares. And expect him to be, I mean, he's pushing the pace along now, which kind of surprises me a little bit that he's showing his, you can see him in the pain room on the bottom left hand side there, right on the bottom. He's out of the saddle at the moment, pushing the pace along. He's a very strong rider, very capable, but is he showing his cards too soon? I don't know. We shall see. I can't help thinking he is, but he's definitely one of the riders I expect to be there. Jeff Moose, let's have a look and see if we can find Jeff. He's in the same age category, so let's see if we can find him. Yeah, Jeff Moose, he rides for Framework Fitness Racing, and he's also in the 35-44. And again, one of the riders, as you can see here, staying with this front group, one of the riders that's going to be there or thereabouts towards the end of this race. I spotted another rider I know, Keller. He's certainly going to be a contender as well. So some names which I'm recognising here, Perkins as well. These are riders that I fully expected to be up towards the front of this race. I don't know all these races by any means. I only know a few of them. Keller, definitely. We'll watch a few of the riders further back. Drew Taylor. Now the problem that we have is the same as I commentated on with the ladies group, and that's that riders that get dropped off at this early stage, unless they can get into a fairly decently sized secondary or third group, they're not going to get back. The front group are up in the pace, riding as a unit. As we watch Darryl Weil here, and the truth is they're just not going to get back on. They're not going to be competing with that front group. But everybody's obviously riding for, I mean, and the riding, don't forget, these riders are riding in their own age categories as well. So riders that are not with the front group doesn't mean they haven't got a race to run. They certainly have, because you have the different age categories that all the riders are taking part in. So we're looking at the split screen view here. We're looking at the group out front, and I did say I expected about 20 riders to break free. I don't know exactly how many we've got, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. I don't think I'm far off here. I think we've got about 20 riders that have broken free here, and I expect this to thin down a little bit more. You can see in the very far distance a couple of specks, so there are riders behind, but I don't expect the riders that have been dropped behind to catch this group, because they're pushing big watts. Here we go, here's a couple of riders behind, look. So how many we got in that front group? We've got if I look at Jay Moose, looks to be the last rider, so we've got 18 riders in the front group, give or take. Let's call it 18. And so basically you're going to see the 18 riders riding together as a unit, certainly on this first lap. I think riders pushing off the front like we see Flower doing here, but Tom Flower. But I do think they'll more or less stay together for at least the first lap. We're 6 kilometres in now, so yeah, they've a fair way to go before we get to the halfway point. But I'd expect this group to stay together. Maybe they might break up a little bit more on this next climb coming up. The downhills also could have an effect. Maybe the lighter riders will drop out the back on the really steep downhills when the bigger riders put the power down. But I don't know. Drafting in these larger groups is a lot easier than drafting in the small, 2 or 3 riders. So it shouldn't be too difficult once you're in the middle of this pack to save energy and stay with them. I mean, too difficult is what shall we say, a term I use, but it doesn't always ring true. As we watch, and yes, we've got 18 up front because we're watching riders 18, 19 and 20 there. So Van der Veen doing a lot of work off the front. We know he's a strong rider, but I have to wonder why he's doing so much work off the front so early in the race. Maybe he's saying to himself, well, the riders behind are just not, we're not pushing the pace on fast enough, and so he's wanting to maintain this fast pace and in fact even grow it. As we watch Keller taking over the lead. Another rider that I'm familiar with, Keller. Already looking like a pretty interesting split here, and I fully expect this group to split further. Maybe on this next climb, but if not, certainly on the as we're coming into the second lap and the second time up the longer of the 3 hills. Back into the pain cave, and I'm not going to call out the riders' names. You can clearly see them on screen yourself, the different techniques they're using. I mean, some of them are looking really, really cool, others less so. Here we go, this is a bit of a better view. This is a slightly improved view of them. And yeah, Drew Taylor, certainly, he reminds me of a rider, one of my favourite riders on the RGT platform, who rocks and rolls just almost similar to how he does, John Beams. In fact, he looks very similar to John Beams. But yeah, Drew Taylor looking good. Ryan Goldenberg looks nice and focused. Blair Drader kicking out of the saddle here. Looks like he's really working. Andrew Perkins has got that sort of like gritty look on his face. Philip Reynolds, he looks like he's suffering. Yeah, it's really interesting. Alex Ryback looks to have stopped. So I don't know what's happened to Alex. Oh, he's going again now. What's happened to Alex? Is he still in the race, or has he dropped? It's difficult to tell, I mean, some riders will take a bit of a breather on the downhills, grab a bottle of water, or stop pedaling sometimes, and then, especially on the steeper downhills, you can do that, especially if you're one of the bigger riders and you push the power out prior to stopping pedaling. You can stop pedaling for a few seconds and then pick it up again. But it's a dangerous thing to do sometimes, because if you just drop that power and there's a surge, you can find yourself out the back. Now, we saw in the ladies' race one rider in particular dropping out the back of the 6 that pulled away up front, and she paid for it at the end. So we'll see whether that happens with the men, and if it does, I'll explain what's going on and the technique, basically, that we call burning matches. So let's wait and see. This group is going to thin down. You can tell from the way that the riders at the back are sort of like drifting getting back in and then drifting again. So I do feel like this is going to split. 5 watt-kilos off the front by Van der Veen, so the pace is incredibly high. That's kind of like, you know, pretty close to the limit these riders are going to want to do without going into the red. And you can see Van der Veen going into the red now, 6.1 watt-kilos. I think too much too soon in my opinion, but I'm not going to call a rider of his strength and experience out. Definitely not. And some riders can do that all day long. When we get to the elite racing tomorrow, which I won't be covering, I will be watching, but I won't be able to cover it. You know, there are riders there that can sort of like spend huge amounts of time in the red, recover, and then go again, and just keep on doing that during the racing. Pretty incredible, really. But this is the small. Oh, now then, we've got a nice group formed up behind them. So this group is coming together. We've got a few more riders than we did have. We only had about 4 or 5 riders in the secondary group. It now looks like it's improving. There's a couple of riders just coming into picture here. And the larger this group becomes, the more chance they have of pulling back some of the terrain. I don't think they'll do so. I don't think they're going to rejoin the front of the group. And the rider that's in 19th place, that's just off the front of Chan here, who's in 20th place, as you saw, the rider that's in 19th place riding on his own, that to me just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He's certainly not going anywhere in relation to the group in front, and he's not even going anywhere in relation to this group behind. And if I was him, I would sort of be thinking about easing up only very slightly and rejoining the group that's chasing behind him. And they're going to catch him whether he does that or not, so he might as well save his powder and sit in with them. But that's only the way I read it. This is third group on the road, so riders 30 to 36. And they look to be working well as a unit together. And again, you know, it's too soon to tell whether they're going to pull back any of the distance on the secondary group or not. As we watch Ian just having to put in a spurt to get back on the wheels. And then further down the field, we're going to have these individual riders, and hopefully they can join up. They can work together, because it doesn't help riders if they have to ride like solo, or they're the strongest rider in a sort of like 2-man, 3-man group. It really helps on RGT with the drafting, which is very realistic, if riders can swap turns on the front and can take advantage of drafting to recover and then do another turn on the front. Now Bart Gold, I don't know this rider, but looking strong, pushing off the front here. Let's have a look and see what group Bart's in. We did call it out earlier, but he's in the 55-64, so he's doing well off the front here. Riding for Steed Cycles, Bart Gould. So we know that the blue jerseys, the blue jersey with the red insignia on the back, this is the 55 to 64 age group. Now Mr. Saunders, I wonder whether this fellow's any relation to Lee Saunders, who's an absolute animal when it comes to esports racing. And one of my favourite riders to watch, because he gives 110% every race he takes part in. Matt, Yes, I looked him up earlier actually, but when I say looked him up, I saw his name and wondered whether he was related to Lee Saunders. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his first name, Mr. Blaze here. But these are the riders towards the back end of the, and it looks like we got 52 riders. Eric Healy is Lantern Rouge, because T. Brimner, sorry, that's one of the photographers riding at the back of the field. And then of course you've got the ZMS cameras. But it's nice to see different riders as we look at Dumper here. But it's nice to see different riders taking over the work on the front of the group. They have calmed down. They have, you know, the pace has sort of dropped slightly now. It looks like J Dumper. Is it Jamie? Jamie Dumper. Yeah, Jamie Dumper. Out of the saddle, kicking. 8.2 watt kilos. So a strong ride here from Jamie, and we could see the effort in his Pain Cave video. So Greg Boileau, he's definitely looking strong off the front here. And in fact, I did say that the climbs would be where riders might try and make a break. So is this a genuine attempt to try and get away, or is this just testing legs? This is we're still on the, in fact no we're not, we're over the halfway point. So they've just gone up, that climb that they've just gone up is the second lap climb. The largest climb is still to come. That's in a few kilometres, as you can see from the graphic. Now, just to explain the white paddles on the bottom of the screen. The small white paddles obviously are all the riders in the different groups, but the largest of the white paddles that you see moving, that's the front of the race. So whoever is highlighted at the front of the race, or even in the middle of this, whoever has the big white paddle, that's the rider that's currently in focus. And at the moment it's Greg Boileau. Hope I'm pronouncing that right, as we watch Keller going past. Now we know Keller has got form, and he's a very strong rider, not the kind of rider that you want to be letting have a 40 odd metre gap and growing. So Keller is making and I think this is a genuine effort. I'm pretty convinced that this is a genuine effort by Keller. The way he went past Greg, and just kept on going rather than waiting for him to join him. I think this is a genuine effort to try and pull away. I don't think it's going to stick. That's my honest opinion. I don't think at this point a solo break is going to stick. And in fact, I say that as the riders behind Greg pull Greg in, Greg Boileau, and they'll pull in Keller as well. I'm pretty convinced of that. Yeah, they're going to pull him in. Yes, he's got a nice 100 metre gap, but you're going to be able to watch, as I'm doing on screen, that gap is going to come down slowly, but as sure as eggs, that gap will come down. But what's happened with the two riders going off the front, it's had a significant impact on the group, because you can now see that the group of 18 is now a group of 11. We've got 12, 13, 14 and 15 here, all the same age category riders. So these riders have been dropped out the back of the front group. They're not going to get back in. Sorry folks, but I'm calling that now. You will not rejoin that front group, because that second group, because they're going to push on, catch the rider in front. Now if they ease up, then yes, there's a possibility you could get back. And in fact, these riders, especially Hahn here, he's really putting in a big effort. Oh yeah, he's putting in a big effort to get back across. Now remember, I used the term burning matches. Every time you have to do this, every time you have to close a gap and try and bridge a gap like this, you'll either get dropped out the back. Chris Harm, every time you close a gap like this, you're burning a match. And you only have so many, as we watch Blair Drader take it up, you only have so many in your box, in your match box. And so riders that do this generally, and this was perfectly illustrated with the ladies race earlier on today, riders that burn matches early on in the race or in the mid part of the race generally pay for it towards the end. You can't continue to close gaps, or you can't close a huge gap and then expect there not to be some kind of payback for it. Strong riders, the real animals, like I mentioned, for example, Lee Saunders earlier, he's the kind of rider that can do that. He can sort of like take a breather, have a drop back and then close gaps, and you wouldn't think he'd just done that. But the majority of riders cannot do that. They will pay for making a big effort. Is Keller going to pay for his effort off the front, or is he timing his effort nicely? Does he know that he's got enough to be able to do this, then to be able to sit in when caught, and then to be able to go again? He must feel that way. He must be. I'm sure he knows he's going to get caught, and I still say he will get caught. I don't know what the current gap is at the moment, but I still say he will get caught. What is the gap? The gap's 40 metres. Now remember, it was 100 metres. All right, it's 40 metres to the next man, then 60 metres to the riders behind. So yeah, they've got a bit of closing up to do to catch Greg, and then once they catch Greg, which they're doing now, almost as I'm speaking, Greg's being caught by the group. Yep, there we go. So they've caught Greg. They're going to power on past him. Greg will more than likely sit in. I think he's got more than enough strength to do that. He will sit in, recover, and he may well be able to go again later in the race if he gets enough recovery here. Or will he pay? We'll have to wait and see. But they're going to pull in Van der Veen up front. Not Van der Veen. Keller up front. These riders. They're taking the time. They're not. There's no great rush to do this. You can see from the terrain that's coming up. There's a huge downhill coming up, and then there's that lovely long green section, and that's perfect terrain for a fast-moving group like this to pull in a solo breakaway like Keller. I mean, Keller's on the downhill slope now, so obviously the gap's going to grow. You can see it's going to about 200 metres here because he's on the downhill. But what you're going to remember is the other riders are going to reach this downhill and work as a team together. So they're going to be absolutely storming down this downhill, catching this fella in front. And as I speak, and as I'm saying that, you can clearly see the distance counter coming down. Now when they're all on the flat, that's where you're going to see the real difference in power outputs between Keller off the front and this group. And that's what to look for. Is the gap then growing? Because if Keller's pulling out the gap when they're all on the same terrain, i.e. all on the flat, then you know that he's going to stick the brake. But my guess is we will see when they're all on the same kind of terrain, you will see the gap closing up. We'll have to wait and see. But this is a brave ride by Keller. It really is. Is he one of the younger riders? I think he is, isn't he? Let's just have a look. Keller. Let's find you. I'm struggling to find him here. Where is he? I'm missing him. Is he not on my... He's got to be on my list, surely. Hell. Where are you? I can't find him. Oh, is he a late entry? Because I can't find him on my... Now I printed out the start list, the official start list, and I can't find Keller on it. So... I got a Keller in the elite women, going tomorrow, but I cannot see a Keller in this race. Still looking, still looking. Just making sure they haven't mixed up the first and last names, which they haven't. Nope. So Keller is not actually in my start list. So obviously a late joiner. But he's certainly taking it away from these riders. 186 metres. You know, I said they were going to catch him. They're going to have to start closing this up, because we've only got 6.6 kilometres remaining. 180 metres at the moment. They are closing it very slowly. Now, who's that on the side of the road? That would probably be a lapped rider. Yeah, that's a lapped rider that they're passing now. So probably somebody that's dropped out as well. But is Keller going to hold this? Or is he going to... what's he got? He's got 6.3 kilometres to go. He's 200 metre gap, give or take. Now, is that going to be enough, folks? Who's your money on? Is your money on Keller to take the win? He's actually pulling out this gap. This has the potential to go all the way. It does look like he's making the break here. Now, is he in Richard Keller? There he is. Bottom right hand of all the riders here. Richard Keller. There he is, wiping his, well, putting water on his head to cool himself down. We're looking at the jerseys on his wall, and it does look like this fella's got form. So he obviously knew what he was doing when he went for the break. Here he is taking a gel. Look, he's coming into the last 5 kilometres, so this makes perfect sense. Knock back a gel, get that extra, and he's taking a recovery here to swallow the gel while he was on that downhill section. Quickly goes into the uphill, but he's looking strong, isn't it? And he's grown this gap to 400 metres. Okay, my prediction that they'd catch him, sorry folks, I got it wrong again. I got the ladies wrong, I got this wrong. So Richard Keller is going to take the win. Now, when I say the win, that's the win in his category. Don't forget, folks, that there are different categories for this racing. So, and for those results, you're going to have to go to the official website. We won't have the results list. Cycling Canada will produce that on their own website. I'm just being told as well that Richard Keller wasn't on my producers list, so must obviously have been a very last minute. Surprised I didn't spot that on Discord, because I have been following the Discord channel of Cycling Canada prior to this race, just to see what news I could pick up on the riders. And as I mentioned, all these riders, now I can't speak for Keller, but I can speak for all the other riders, and I assume, in fact, I can speak for Keller because I remember the rules. All these riders taking part in these events have to have taken part in a weigh-in and the ebiopassport.com website. So they're all verified riders. You're not allowed to ride unless you've been verified. So these performances, folks, are genuine. There's no flyers in amongst these races. These are all genuine performances, which is fantastic to see. And you know, that's the gold standard for me, ebiopassport.com. I seriously believe that if you're going to be taken seriously with esports racing, you need to have verification. And eBioPassport generally is the place to go. There's a Facebook group as well called Ride Fair, but ebiopassport.com is the place to go. Majority of riders have got dual power profiles as well. So yeah, they're all verified, all legit performances. Because we do sadly see non-verified performances from time to time in some of the races. And it's fantastic that Cycling Canada have put on such a great event as this, and insisted that all the riders, men and women, have to be verified. It's the way forward, especially after the local fiasco that happened over on Swift recently, but I'm not going to go into that. Now, as I said, I did expect the group to break up, and you can see the following riders here who are basically riding for second and third spot here on the podium overall. But don't forget, as I say, you've got the different coloured jerseys here, which means that you've got the different categories, and you've got 4 different coloured jerseys here. You've got the grey, the red, the blue and red, and the yellow and red. So you've got 4 different age categories all coming in this group. Lovely to see. And this is the following group. All these riders look to be in the same age category, 11 to 17. So looks like Hans making a push to try and get off the front here. 3.5 kilometers to go. It is an uphill finish. It flattens out, I think, in the last 150 meters. So it is an uphill finish, and it's tough. It's a tough uphill finish as well. So you need a good gap to make sure that you are going to take the win. But Keller's still holding on to 200 meters plus. So I do think he's been reeled in like fairly quickly as well, but I do think he will hold on. What's he got left to do? 2 kilometers, and he's got a 200, I think it's 285 meter gap. So that's enough. 285, 274. That's enough to hold them off with 2 kilometers to go. I can't see. I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible, and it probably has happened, but I think Keller will just be timing this. He's on this downhill section now. The gap is going to grow, and then he'll kick. Once he's out of this downhill section, he'll kick one short climb coming up, and then the climb to the finish. One short, steeper climb, should I say, to go, and then we're coming in towards the finish. So my guess is he'll hold on to. He's got 400 meters now because of that downhill. He can afford to let it drop back down to the 200s, but he can't afford to let it go under 200 meters coming into the finish. Otherwise, there is a possibility he would get caught. He'll know that better than me. He'll know exactly what he's doing here. 300 meters with 1 kilometer to go. Here we go, the 1 kilometer. There isn't a banner because it's a loop, folks, so we don't get the red flamme rouge banner as we're watching the riders here. Now you can see Richard Keller there. You can see how hard he's churning those pedal round. And this is going to be a good win. He's not the youngest member of these masters. In fact, let's just check on. Oh, I haven't got him, have I? So, but he certainly doesn't look like a youngster. So he looks like he's well and truly in the masters category. So this is going to be a good scalp to take. Now this is the climb I told you about, 6.9%, and it does get a little bit steeper than that. Although not at this point, maybe. You can see from the profile in the top right hand corner, the small window, the profile, and you can see that it goes uphill and then it just drops off slightly right at the very depth. 230 metres. Van der Veen has put in a real big effort to try and close up on him. He's got Muse with him, Luzell is there as well. I tell you who has done a good ride. Boilo has come back after burning that match earlier. He's done a really good ride. I hope he manages to, well, it'd be nice to see him get a top 3 after all the work he put in earlier. So yeah, anyway, here we go. This is Richard Keller coming over the line, and he's going to take the win. Now, when I say the win, as I say, don't forget this is category based, but he's finished first over the line. Van der Veen, who was my pick, is finishing, well, I'm saying he's finishing second. Looks like he's going to get overhauled, so I can't even call. That's Luzell. Luzell takes second. Boilo did get the 3rd place. Well done. He's deserved that because of the work he put in earlier. I think Van der Veen actually wasn't that fussed. I can say that. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell, isn't it? But it did look like he got swarmed at the end as we watch Gould coming in here. Yeah, so a good race. And as I say, please check out the results on the Cycling Canada website. And this, don't forget, these were the 3rd group on the road, this little group of 7 riders here. So it'd be nice if they can finish all together. And here's the official results, folks. Now, when I say official results, once again, I'll remind you, there's different age categories. And the idea is to try and win your age category. Whether you win overall or not is a bonus, but the idea is to try and win your age category. Now, it was fairly easy with the ladies to sort of like go down the finishing list and call out who'd won the different categories with the ladies. I'm not going to attempt to do that with the men. I'm just going to leave it. And you can check out the website to get all the results. But you can clearly see on screen from the graphics that came up on screen and will come back up shortly. You could clearly see who'd taken the various podium positions. Many riders still to come in, as well as those that have finished. Villeneuve there. Van de Griend. So we still have quite a lot of riders out on the road. I did say that this was going to be fast and furious, and I also said it was going to split up, which is exactly what has happened. The front group was setting an absolutely phenomenal pace, and that was always going to lead. You know, we had 18 riders away initially, then those 18 riders were broken up, and then to 12 or 11, and then the 11 riders were broken up as well, with solo riders going off the front. Very good ride by Keller to take that solo win, because that took some guts to jump off the front like that and keep it going. And Greg Boilo, that was a fantastic ride from Greg. After putting in all that hard work, trying to stay with Keller, then being dropped by the group as they came storming past him, only to jump back in with them and eventually get 3rd over the line. That was a very impressive ride. And when I'm doing commentary, this kind of commentary on these races, that I don't just look at the winners. I like to see riders that put in, you know, really huge efforts and then are still able to. I mean, Muse did a good ride. Well, I'm not going to pick individual riders out, but the ones that stand out for me, obviously Keller, Greg, But Lewis L to come past Van der Veen like he did, he came past Van der Veen like he was stood still. I don't know why, but Van der Veen just seemed to not have anything left when they came past him. Looked for all the world to me like he was going to get second spot. But if you look at the times, I mean, apart from Richard Keller, who was a sort of like way out front winner, if you look at time from second, third, fourth and fifth, 1 second separating them. So that's pretty, and in fact less than 1 second separating them. So that's pretty impressive. And then you had a close race between like 6th and 7th, and then further down the field. So yeah, some very, very close finishes here. Now I think we can only show the top 20 on screen. I'm pretty sure on that. Yeah. So we can only see show the top 20 on our screen here. As I say, full results on the Cycling Canada website after the event. But it's going to be a while yet before all the riders come in. Don't forget, we actually saw there was at least, I think, 2 riders that we saw lapped. Now, whether they'd had technicals or whether they'd just decided to just riding or not, I don't know. But yeah, being lapped in a 2-lap race like this, it's not something you'd particularly enjoy, that's for sure. Excuse me. And tomorrow, ZMS won't be covering it, but we have the elites going. The elite ladies and gents, and let's have a look. See if I can find it. Yeah, and they go off at 13:30 EST, so slightly later than what we started with the ladies today. The same time actually as the men. So the junior men go off at 13:30 Eastern Standard Time, and then you have the under 17s. They're going, I assume, actually looking at the start times, the junior men and the under 17s, it looks like those 2 groups are going to be riding together in the same race. And then you're going to have the elite juniors, under 17 ladies going off, and then they go off at 15:10 Eastern Standard Time. Oh, we've got 30 results on screen. Brilliant. Okay, well done. We weren't sure how many results we were going to have in, so this is good to see, producer. Well done. Yeah. So the elite men go off tomorrow at 16:30 Eastern Standard Time. That'll be well worth watching. I shall tune in for that. Again, you can find all the links to these races in the different groups. There's a Discord group, there's a Facebook group, and there's a YouTube channel. You can find all the links on the Cycling Canada website. So I'm being told that the last rider is 3.5 kilometers back. So we've been on the air now a good while, folks. I think we're going to wrap it here, if you don't mind. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Well, we won't see you tomorrow. I'll be watching, as will many of my colleagues. The elites going off tomorrow. And thanks for watching this broadcast. It's been very, very much fun watching you Canadians. And from a Yorkshireman living in the Netherlands, I'll say good night, thank you, stay safe everybody, and that's a wrap.